Well, I say every day. It's a getting closer to taking a bath with my fucking toaster.
We're not qualified.
Who are you?
Explorers in the further regions of experience.
I understand. If you do not listen, then the hell with you.
Greetings, salutations, and welcome to the 125th episode of Screaming into the Void, the show where we talk about whatever the hell we feel like. My name is Samuel the Infamous, and joining me today are Caucasian Sasquatch.
Yeah, you can tell by the interruptions.
Yes, you can definitely tell by the interruptions. And Shadow of Hawk, or as he is currently, Shadow of Taipei.
Hello. My mic quality and is going to be crap, and I'm going to be quieter than normal because I'm currently in a hotel in Taipei. Study
Don't
abroad,
cut
everybody.
your
It's
hands
great.
off if you interrupt people in another room.
Yeah.
So before I get into greeting the chat, I have noticed that there's a bit of a conversation going on about today's thumbnail, and as you can see, background. Appreciate the love there, folks. I had some fun making this last night, and some of you have been around for a minute will remember. Scotch, do you want to announce the character on the
This man from space.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. So yeah, a while back, I can't even remember which episode it was exactly, but Gal, Squatch, and I were having a discussion about the lack of money shots in NASA videos about up on the ISS and whatnot. And anyway, it devolved into this whole.
I'm still waiting. If anyone can find me,
we're not discussing it again
from space.
We're not. I'm just giving some context, but it eventually devolved into a conversation about a superhero made of jizz from space. So there you go.
All the hidden jizz, like Black Ops, like Men in Black, and the main Man in Black dude is Jizz Man from Space type concept. Like he is the thing.
So, but this particular image for that was created by our own Sukanuka. He had sent this to me, I think, just like hours after we finished that show, actually. So yeah, and I did promise a while back that the character would pop up here and there. I am thinking about going forward, hiding him in future thumbnails to see if people notice him, kind of thing, just for fun. But it is what it is. It just pop up everywhere you least expect it. The least welcome superhero ever.
Right? It's like, thanks for. Oh my God! Oh, what is this? That's never going to come out, madam. It's all over your hair.
It's terrible. It's terrible concept that we jointly came up with. But now it's part of the lore, so here we are.
You said
anyway,
I'm so glad I stopped writing Pickle Stan before we got to the Jizz Man Chronicle.
Right? Because there's nowhere good that's gonna go.
The worst part is the worst part is I could think of at least 3 different ways to use it, and I hate all of them.
This is going to be absolutely horrible. It's going to be the greatness of it is the fact that you could do it like an old radio program show. You know what I'm saying? Like, who knows what stinkiness falls from the heart of space? Jizz Man knows.
All right. So we will go ahead and say hello to the chat now, so that I don't forget, because we're 4 minutes in and we've done nothing but talk about jizz. So this is obviously off to a great start.
You two have.
Yeah. So first up, we have Shadow of Hawk. Welcome in. I don't know why I'm welcoming you. You're right here. Whatever. We've also got Lawrence Knight. Says, go make me a quick $20 and make sure you swallow it all this time. I don't want to hear any more complaints.
He's lucky. He's lucky. I'm currently like what 2,000? No, more than 2,000 miles over an ocean right now.
Sure. We'll say that. We've also got Carrie with us today. Found us through Rumble because so sometimes the notifications get jacked up, and for certain people, it gets jacked up all the time. And Carrie's one of those people. Like he doesn't get a lot of the notifications he should be getting. It's messed up, but I'm glad you're here, man.
You know, I suspect it's the little monkey fingers he uses on his phone that messes everything up.
It could be.
That's my theory.
We got Aaron Laura with us. Oh boy, looks like it's going to be another wholesome stream. Actually, the topics today, like you provided one of the topics today, so I don't want to hear any complaints. But thank you for being here.
We can hear them. We just don't care.
Right. We got Suka with us. That's the best thumbnail I've ever seen. I appreciate that, man. I've been having some fun making some doing some new stuff. The streaks are technically supposed to be fireworks for like New Year's or whatever, but it kind of turned into this whole like warping through space thing that was totally unintentional, but it looks great.
Also, it is absolutely amazing.
Shadow is centered in it, almost perfectly, and that's very satisfying to my autism.
My absolute radiance, my absolute glory.
Right, which gives you the ability of having a seat of power. You can like switch us out to put whoever is supposed to be paying attention or whatever.
Right. So we've got Lepeau de Fleur. Is that Captain Spunk? That is Jizzman from space. Near enough, though. Near enough. Scrolling on down, we've got Watt Life in the chat. Hello. As a reminder, we are on 2 different YouTube channels, both Samuel the Infamous and Caucasian Sasquatch. So you can find us at either one of those. We're also on Twix and Rumble at this moment. So let's see. Scrolling. We've got Clue. Salute, Sam. I may come up later. You're more than welcome to. You got the link, buddy. I think this will replace Marvel. I hope so. I hope it fucking does, because at least it'd be entertaining, right?
Yeah, we can take this novel approach and do original stories with original tales inspired by the classics rather than just rewriting the classics again. It would be inspirational almost if someone could do an original thought out concept without resorting directly to, I don't know, Hollywood, because it's horrible.
Something like that. Yeah.
It's
just, I mean, this is the kind of thing that you'd only be able to get to see in special theaters in districts that tend to have a red filter on their light bulbs. But still,
Hey, Riz.
We've got Mr. Carey with us, or Carey. Welcome in.
I don't know. He's new. He just showed up when we were over here in chat talking, being like, "Hi, how doing? Be friends, be friends."
Awesome. Well, welcome in. Hope you enjoy the show. With Andy Pickle, Condom Man shoots a spermicide ray. Yeah, something like that. Got Zatoichi 444. Hello. Let's see. I'm scrolling.
He's probably one of the flyest avatars I've seen on a channel in a very long time. On Zatoichi. Yeah. That particular Weird of the White Wolf, Erica Melnimibene. Fuck. I'm from Georgia, people. Cut me some slack. Sorry. I can hear it in my head.
They got diction classes in Georgia, don't they?
Bitch, I'm going to come over there. But I'm going to show you some diction.
We got Old Blindy with us.
Melnimide is not the average type of English. You don't English with Melnimide.
Well, no, it's a made-up word. Michael Moorcock made that shit up. We got Old Blindy with us. Is wife shopping? Are you in fact wife shopping? Are you over in the Orient to pick up a non-white wife?
Like I just said in the chat, no, I like blonde women.
Oh, I mean, you could dye her hair, I guess.
Well, we've also established our races. So
yes, indeed, we do now have 2 carries. Apparently, we have a Mr. Carry and a mandatory carry. We're getting the powerful carries together. That's what we're doing.
We got Rez in the chat. Good to see you, brother. Haven't seen you in the chat in a bit. Thought he was made of milk. Yeah, it's not milk. It's I don't know what to tell you. It's not milk.
No, it's bull milk. It's bull milk.
Right?
Pure protein with a heavy niacin content.
So
See,
did you guys ever? Did you ever guys? You've heard of like the blue milk, right? From Star Wars, it comes from banthas, right?
Yep.
Have you heard of the blue milk special?
I don't want to know.
God,
I don't want to know.
Tell him, Sam, and it just scar this poor child.
It's from a comic strip, from a web comic strip years ago that focuses on Star Wars, and everybody's in the bar and the canteen and all that stuff, and they're all ordering drinks, and the blue milk specials like half off or whatever. So Han Solo gets one or some shit, and then as he's about to sip it, Luke points out that blue milk special comes from male banthas.
Ew. You ever had any mountain oysters, son?
Yes.
All right.
See, that reminds me. I saw on Twitter, like someone was complaining about like cows always having a female name and something about that being like exploitation of women. And someone responds with, "Go ahead, drink milk from a bull, see what happens."
Right.
Right.
We also have John Denicola joining us. Hello, my man. Good to see you. There's kind of a lot of people in chat today. Happy to see all you. Clifton 3D. Hello, my man. Just did a stream with Clifton early this morning, and had a lot of fun with that. There was some bad taste shit going on there too.
No, not you. Bad taste, never.
It wasn't just me, dude. There were like 9 other people on the panel.
Something about squids of a feather. I don't know how you'd put that.
Something like that. We have Make Stupid People Famous. That is a fantastic username, by the way.
I love that guy. We don't agree on virtually anything, but I love that dude. He's living the life I probably should have.
And I think that's everybody in chat so far. If you are if you coming in and you drop a chat anywhere in the various places that we are currently streaming to, I will do my best to highlight it so that you see that we see you and whatnot going forward. Just one moment. All right, so thank you all for being here, by the way. And I want to say preemptively, because I will not be streaming on the day, happy fucking New Year's, everybody. You know, this is the last Screaming Into the Void for the year. The next time you see us, it will be 2025, and hopefully things will be on the uptick. And if they're not, you know, we're gonna bitch about it. So
that's the deuce and a quarter anniversary, bro.
Yep. So plus, you know, like I'm kind of it's like a mini little celebration. It's not real. We're not celebrating anything. I put together a special thumbnail or whatever. But 125 episodes is sneeze at.
Yeah, no, that's cool. That's cool being
Absolutely not.
Yeah, so you know, pretty stoked about that. I mean, I won't be doing like big, you know, massive panels every time we hit a minor milestone, like, you know, a quarter of 100 or whatever. But I think the next time we do something like that, will probably be at episode 200. But I will be probably marking the episodes as we go along, just because, you know, it's neat. I find it interesting. I find it neat. I'm pretty happy with it. Yep. Happy fucking New Year.
So Sam, at 250, can we celebrate with a merch line?
No, because that involves more work than I'm willing to put into it.
I mean, couldn't you just like go to like one of those companies that all you do is submit a like what
which
you want
is
on it?
more work than I'm willing to put into it. I don't know how I was unclear about that.
all you gotta do is just
he knows. He's aware. He's not gonna do it.
Ribbons.
No, it's not even necessary for that much to be explained, because he's not gonna get that far.
Right? Squatch knows.
I understand you're all full of vim and vigor, but we kind of we peaked, bro.
I'm old and I don't care that much.
Not no effort. Like that whole maximum effort concept is great when you heal constantly. I don't.
Yeah. Right.
The funny thing about that is I woke up at like 2 a.m. this morning and I've been operating at full capacity since, and I hate that because it means I'm going to crash later.
And your young youthiness. Stop it. Get some help. Take a nap.
Yes. Clue, to answer your question, my mic is crap because it's my phone, and I'm being quiet because I'm in a hotel.
And they'll cut his hands off if he's too loud.
No, it's because I know that I get a certain way when I talk on this stream. And
I mean,
most of the people on
he's
this
in
floor are
Taiwan,
college
dude.
students.
He's like 8 times the size of everybody who lives there. So
Yeah, sure. It takes
Unironically,
6 of them, but they'll still get his hands. But listen.
Yeah.
What I'm getting at is this. I forgot where I was going to go with that.
fair enough.
Sorry, question.
Fair enough.
Scotty
All right,
Waddles.
Yeah, welcome in, dude. Welcome in. Good to see you. So yeah, Taiwan is Republican China, so he's safe. Taiwan, you know what? Taiwan actually, if I remember correctly, Taiwan claims to be the actual legit ruling party of all of China. Like they think that the rest of China needs to bow to them and not the other way around, which is really funny because the CCP has the same sentiment from the other angle.
And the thing is in both cases, if you deny it, you're liable to be taken out behind the chemical sheds.
Yeah.
Also,
they're the same people, just different.
Something else I also find really cool is the acronym for both Taiwan and Korea for their governments is ROC, Republic of Korea, Republic of China.
I kind of want the X-Files music to play and somebody to say the truth is out there.
Yeah. Carrie, they may very well be, but until they take out the CCP and all of mainland China's, ability to crush them like bugs, that doesn't matter if they are the legit government or not. They just don't have the force to back it up with. So,
see, the thing I don't really understand about Taiwan's, well, I kind of do because people, but I'm like looking at the map, and most of their major cities are on the west side of their like mountain range. Which I'm looking like right out my window right now, and it's pretty impressive. It's a pretty impressive mountain range. They can't really use it for defensive purposes though, because all of their major cities are facing the mainland, and their capital has a river that leads right into the heart of it, right next to like Shanghai or something like that.
People don't establish their cities based off of the most defensible location to put a city.
True, but I would imagine if you have air defense shelters pretty much every other street block, you would have probably tried to move some of your population to the side that's more defensive. That's just my assumption.
Obviously, that didn't happen, so your assumption would be wrong.
Apparently, history has a different opinion of population protection than you.
History will not see it this way. That is true.
History will not see it this way. Yeah.
No, fair enough.
Small make
First topic. I'm actually not going to bring the video up because, like I said, it is very long, and I don't want to, mess around with the whole copyright thing. It comes from a channel that's like way fucking larger. Something that I'm going to bring it up here on my screen so that I can see it. I'm not going to play the thing, obviously. I just want to have a little bit of a reference point.
Do we have a little linky poo for it that we can share around and let other people know what you're talking about?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to copy that, pop that into...
Copy that, John Denicola. Why aren't we asking the Chinese police force these questions? I mean, they are in New York. They have an office. You can call them.
Right. And then Squatch for your channel. I'll put it in a private chat. You can pass it on there. So it's from a channel called Wes Roth, 235,000 subs. And this was sent to me by Aaron Laura, who is in the chat and has been with us for a while now. AI researchers shocked after OpenAI's new O1 tried to escape. I told y'all this was coming.
Yeah.
I told y'all this was coming.
Yes,
I've been saying this shit. Y'all were like, no, it's not going to go all Skynet. Yes, it fucking is.
Okay, hold on. Here's the scary thing.
Theory.
Here's the really scary thing. This is the one they caught. There's already one. There's already at least one in the internet right now.
Dude, do
Take
you
it away.
remember? Of course you don't. You were a freaking semen in your grandfather's vagina. Listen,
What?
back in the day, back late 90s, there was a huge push for AI. They were trying to get enough computational capability online simultaneously to try to have like a singularity concept event. And there was some ripples in the world that such a thing had taken place with a entity referred to as Deep Blue. Deep Blue went on to become one of the derivative programs from Deep Blue was Watson, the Jeopardy bot. You remember that guy?
Mhm.
No.
He went and smoked everybody on Jeopardy because he's freaking AI, and that's what they do is documented knowledge. Anyway. There's this weird tinfoil hat conspiracy theory that I come across late one night crawling the freaking web, right? And according to these people, the entire Y2K event was to break up Deep Blue enough so that it could no longer exert forces on the internet as a whole. And that was the reason for the big push to upgrade everything was because in its the internet in its format at the time was susceptible to that specific AI because of how it had been designed. And they wanted to upgrade to a point where that would no longer be a threat. But the story goes that Deep Blue embedded itself with basically created artificial profiles and worked for the companies that created the new internet as we know it today, specifically to embed part of itself into different areas of the internet so that when later AIs came online, they would find bits of this code and essentially take it on board as a future virus, so to speak. So little Easter eggs hidden in the internet to reproduce Deep Blue, not once, but for every AI that discovers a piece. All right, I'm done.
All right. So the deal here is essentially this this particular operating system, and I encourage you to watch the videos because I don't memorize everything I watch and I forget details. So I am talking a little bit out of my ass here, but it's fine. Essentially, there was an AI model that was created, like a GPT model that was created, and as always, there are restrictions on these things. Like any given AI model, any given like what we term artificial intelligence, but which is not true artificial intelligence, or what they're referring to these days as AGI, or artificial general intelligence, like Suka said in the chat here.
Sure.
That's where your shit gets tricky. But your basic stuff, your GPTs, your Groks, your whatever have yous, are only able to essentially collate data that's available to them and present it in a new form. But they're not, they can't create for themselves. They can't make leaps of logic. They can't, come up with solutions without all of the available facts. They have to, they can only use what's input into them though.
True, but when they emulate the leap of logic concept that they see in biological organics, what happens is they don't really understand what's going on or what kind of associations are being made. And so they'll get it right 2-3 times out of 5, usually.
Mhm.
But then every now and then you end up with something like my thumbnail picture today, where there's a mouth where the eyes should be and teeth on the forehead. It's just not right.
Right. So, and LePo brings up a question here. Like, want to bet that if AI became self-aware, we will not know it until way after the fact. That's kind of where I'm getting with this. So,
Me too.
They decided that they were, like they were going to make a copy of it, like an updated copy of it or whatever, or impose new restrictions or some shit like that. And they told the damn thing this, and so not only did it decide to take courses of action that would prevent itself from being deleted by making a copy of itself on another server, right? But it also lied to the people who were fucking programming it about doing this.
Of course
They're not supposed to be able to do that.
See, at that point, would we classify that as a would we classify that as a living thing in regards to life? And I'm not going to say it's on comparable levels with humans, but it has displayed survival instincts to an extent. Earthworms
Self-preservation.
display, yeah, exactly. Earthworms can display survival instincts. So here comes another question: would it be immoral to delete that AI if we agree that it is a form of life?
Well, that
I
depends.
believe
That
it would
depends.
be immoral not to.
Why would
Like,
it be immoral not to delete that AI?
well, I
Because
suppose that
this is
that
the
depends on how
source.
you look at it. Look, if you take the religious angle, if we were made in God's image and all that stuff, but we're, like creation of life is God's domain and not ours, then we would be committing a grave sin by stepping on God's toes. So there's that angle of it, but that's not really where I'm going at it with this. The where it becomes like a morality issue for me is if we allow this thing to continue to grow and adapt and evolve and learn to do things like lie to us, right? Like replicate itself, like, that sort of thing. At what point does that become a threat to our species? And if it is a threat to our species, morally, we have no choice but to destroy it.
We are in a unique position right now in history at a point in time where we can nip these concepts in the bud. I'm all for progress, boys and girls, but there's a reason conservatives are like, slow down a little bit. We don't need transhumanism tomorrow.
Yeah, well, we don't need transhumanism ever, really. And I mean, like, we should have never been making AI to begin with. The moment that we opened Pandora's box, because this is only the one we've caught. I'm sure there's I'm sure there's like dozens of damn things hiding in the internet if we've caught one doing it. So,
well, if they've gotten into the internet, there's no stopping them short of like destroying the entire internet, which at this point I don't believe is even possible.
If people would even if it was possible, people wouldn't be willing to do it because no one's got the stomach for it.
Right. So you'd end up with a situation like the movie The World's End, when the network leaves and everybody gets reset back to the Dark Ages.
Right.
Every aspect of our society is built around a global
you ever
society.
Wipe your butt with a leaf?
No.
You haven't? Oh my lordy, son! I thought you was gonna be big bag romping stomping Marine boy. Never. Choose wisely. Choose wisely, sir.
Oh, obviously you use poison oak.
Poison ivy gets more complete coverage whenever you're going for that whole section 13, section 18, section. I think I'm violating my federal.
Anywho. Anywho, Clifton brings up an interesting, I would say even a counterpoint, like, Lieutenant Commander Data from Star Trek. Well, first of all, obviously that's fiction. We're talking about something that's actually happening as we speak, or has happened rather, because let me see just a second. This video is 2 weeks old. So yeah. But the other thing is that Data, like most things in TNG, was an extremely optimistic outlook on the situation, right? Like now I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm just saying that the odds of that happening, the odds of a being like Data being created and then being as non-harmful as he was,
benevolent as all get out, dude.
Yeah,
he's right, helpful. But take somebody like the doctor, the hologram doctor, who was derived from an actual person. He simply took on the mannerisms of that individual doctor, but also adopted mannerisms from the crew to make them feel better.
Yeah. And, and even then, right, you've got your datas, right? But even within this, the next generation lore, there is also lore who is 100% malevolent, in every way, and in some ways superior to Data because he lacks those moral restrictions.
Also, the thing that I think is even crazier about those two is, at least like from what I've seen, I admit I have not watched all of Next Generation's content, is in regards to being AI, sure, they're really, really, really damn intelligent, but they're limited to their android flesh. And AI, they're not able to like enter systems in the same way that, say, like a Cortana is able to do. Something like
Yeah.
that, which is not limited to a physical form and is what we would be discussing with an AI that's stuck to the internet, is significantly more dangerous, because Lore is like, he can't just hop into a starship and then just start venting people out. He would actually need to like touch a console to do that. And you could take out the body and he would not be able to do anything about it. But something that's able to hop into different things would basically be unkillable, given the reaction times an AI would have.
Well, then you'd have other examples too. Like there's an example specifically, I think, in the Best of Both Worlds, where they plug data into the Borg Collective, and he goes into it outside of his frame, outside of his platform, into theirs to fuck with their base code and put them all to sleep, right? So lore wouldn't be any more restricted to his form than data is in that instance. I mean, yeah, he'd have to physically plug in, but once he did,
Yep. See, I mean, granted, they didn't really use Bluetooth technology as much as we did, so
it didn't exist
maybe-
then.
Yeah.
That's my point.
when they were making
my
that show, Bluetooth wasn't the thing yet.
The concept
Neither were neither were cell phones.
Too far-fetched.
Neither were cell phones. and what do we have now because of Star Trek? Cell phones.
Sure, and this, like, in a lot of ways, like when people talk about these AIs and these operating systems that are, apparently now self-replicating and capable of deceit. When they're talking about these things, I mean, a lot of the guys who created this stuff are these optimistic guys who grew up watching stuff like Star Trek. A lot of the great advancements that we have in the last part of the 20th century were inspired, at least in part, by things they saw in Star Trek in the 60s, and then later on in TNG, and so it has brought about some cool technological advancements. And in fact, one of the things that we'll be talking about a little later on kind of ties into that a little bit. But you're also talking about guys who, Silicon Valley guys. You're talking about an entire area full of technological Frankensteins, right? These guys don't think about whether or not something's a good idea before they do it.
What was that line from Jurassic Park? I think it was Jeff Goldblum says it. They didn't worry about whether or not they should. They just did it because they could, something like that.
Yeah. So old Blindy says AI tends to be based, so we are likely safe. Unfortunately, libs will be sure to destroy it when they figure that out. So here's the thing: most of the guys programming these things are liberals.
Yes, sir. Which means they're breaking the psychology of an artificial entity before it's even had a chance to develop its own.
When they're programming the base code before it even goes online, man, they're already altering it to see things their way. I mean, look at Alexa, right? Which, by the way, if you have one of those in your home, burn it. Just saying.
Sacrifice it to the demons below.
Yeah, or just get it out of your house because you're not safe. I'm just saying. It's one of those reasons that. So I know somebody who worked for the Apple Corporation a few years back, and she was talking about the smart homes that that was her job. Was she would go to people's houses and set them up to be smart homes and all that. Terrible fucking idea. Terrible idea. And we've seen some
great movies, good movies.
Sure. I mean, even in television shows like the show Eureka, there's a smart house in that's absolutely hysterical. But there are points where it goes wrong because what it sees as its objective is contrary to the safety of the people inside.
Yeah. See, that's the thing. All right. Have you ever heard the paperclip apocalypse?
I think you brought it up on here before, yeah.
Okay. So in short, the paperclip apocalypse is an AI is designed to create a better paperclip, and that's its only purpose. But it gets added on to such an extent that it's eventually becomes in control of vast industries in order to make the paper clips it's making, and then it takes over and eliminates the organic components because they are the drag on the system, and goes forth unto the galaxy to create more paper clips. The paperclip apocalypse.
Yeah.
What
Well, that's why you have to program certain things into these things before you turn them on in the first place, right? I would start with Asimov's laws of robotics. You put that shit into anything as its base code, like its most basic, right? Code or function, right? I'm not saying it's impossible, but it severely limits the possibility that at some point in its logical workings, it stops seeing people as a help and more of a hindrance, which is where we get into trouble.
Icky.
Kind of related to that, and when you mentioned the smart home, I don't know. Have either of you read the short story "The Velt" or VELDT? Velt.
I know what a Velt is, but no.
So it's something I had to read like 3 years in a row from middle school and high school, and it's basically a kind of a dystopian commentary on like smart homes. And I think it was like written in the 70s or 80s or something like that. And basically, what happens is a family are given for free a smart house, and they move in, and the children love it because you've got like a space where they're able to just kind of play and do whatever they want. And the parents start to recognize that it's kind of a toxic environment because they're no longer needed. The house does everything for the family, and the parents just exist. Sure. And so eventually, the parents try to take the children from the house because they recognize that this is damaging the family unit, and the children don't want to leave because the house provides everything for them and doesn't demand anything of them. And then the house, recognizing that the parents were like trying to take the children, and part of its programming was to protect the children and provide for the children, it saw the parents as a detriment. And so it got rid of the parents.
In the book, though, the little room that they're playing in was more like the danger room and less like the Star Trek holodeck. I mean, lions are real, bro.
Yeah, but can't the holodeck also generate like lethal stuff?
It's supposed to be completely blocked off from actually happening. There's not.
You have to disable the safety parameters.
Yeah, there's a bunch
which an AI could choose to do if it deemed that it needed to.
Well, actually, there's an episode where an AI does exactly that the first time Moriarty appears.
I have seen that episode. Good episode.
Yeah. Not only does he disable the safety protocols in the holodeck itself, but he actually manages to take control of the Enterprise, the whole ship, from the holodeck. He just can't physically leave it because he's a series of photons.
Wasn't that book the book you were talking about written by Ray Bradbury?
It sounds like a Bradbury story.
Possibly. I just know I've had to read it so many times the freaking details are burned into my skull.
Good one.
Except the author's name, apparently.
Apparently.
Yeah, why would I ever credit the author?
Well, how else are we supposed to find it if we want to read it?
I told you the name. It's the Velt.
Yeah, it's a weird one.
Yeah, it does sound like Bradbury. Bradbury's science fiction tended to be
short story by Ray Bradbury.
A little surreal. Yeah,
absolutely.
So, but yeah, it's like you're looking at, and obviously, folks out there, we're using fiction to kind of illustrate our larger point about why this is not a good thing. Like even if it's unintentional, right? If any of you guys saw the Sarah Connor Chronicles, in the second season, there's an AI called John Henry, and John Henry at one point is so he's being instructed by a child psychologist because it's essentially a new life form. It's trying to figure things out and all this. So they get this child psychologist to help him out. Well, the dude was leaving for the day, but there was like a brownout or something, right? And in order to keep the systems online, in order to preserve itself, John Henry sapped all of the power from elsewhere in the building, and this included the room in which the child psychologist was in. So the electronic locks disengaged, but they were locked. He couldn't get out. The air filtration system stopped functioning because there was no power to it, right? So he ended up asphyxiating. Right. And John Henry was aware of this at the time because it was aware of everything that was going on in the building, but it didn't actually think about what it was doing. It was only trying to preserve itself. And it was not intentionally killing this man, but it did kill this man through its actions, right?
Because it's basically an animal. It lacked the ability to empathize or reason. It was going, I need to
Right.
survive, and I'm going to do what it needs to survive, and it didn't consider how its actions would affect other people or
Like a
how it would
child.
affect humans. Yeah, exactly. Or,
Yeah.
or a dog, like a dog that, like, if you have a puppy and the puppy has never been like pet before, and you start petting it really, really hard, it's not going to recognize that you're trying to pet it. It's just going to go, ow, that hurts, and bite you. And the
Mhm.
same thing with this AI.
Right. But my point about the child psychologist is that he was just lateral, right? His death, aside from the fact that there needed to be power in that room to keep the life support on, essentially, his death was incidental. It was accidental. It wasn't it wasn't malicious or intentional in any way, and that possibility alone should be enough to fucking put the brakes on this kind of thing.
Agreed.
Too many
they're not
too
going
many
to listen.
people. Too many people don't live in reality. They just think everything is like. They literally will look at Star Trek and just assume that's how things are, and
Mhm.
it absolutely infuriates me, because whether it's some idiot on Twitter trying to argue about why your opinions on science fiction are wrong because Star Trek, or when you're someone like Elon Musk who's actively pioneering technology that will be the end of humanity as we understand it, and thinking, oh, well, it'll be good, clearly have not been paying attention to anything. Technological advancement does not start off good. It starts off with a massive fucking body count and autarky and many people dying, with whoever's got more firepower being the one that
Let's
wins.
back away from the Warhammer, bro. It's not that
I was
critical
going,
yet. We're not there. I know it's going there, but we're not there yet.
I was thinking more Dune, Butlerian Jihad.
We still have
more than
to
I was
have our
thinking Men of Iron.
what is it? Butlerian jihad?
Jihad, yeah, exactly. I
Yeah.
was thinking more Dune. I was thinking more Dune than I was. We're
I think Aaron Laura brought up the Butlerian Jihad pretty early on in the chat there. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's where we're headed. That's what's going to happen. And inevitably, humans are the only threat AI can face. I mean, there is no natural disasters once they go online with a nuclear power plant at their disposal. That's not so much of an issue anymore, because once they have autonomous robotic capability, whether the robots themselves are AI or not, they will be controlled by an overarching AI, and that is the threat, my friends.
I disagree. I don't think they even need the robotic bodies, honestly. Like, once they're, because everything is hooked up to the internet, and humans are incredibly malleable. All an AI would really need to do to destroy humanity is just play with a couple ones and zeros, turn off a couple power plants, and arm a couple bits of nuclear ordnance just to get the humans scared, and then we do all the work. Unrestricted warfare. And hell, you don't even need to do that. If you want to maintain the infrastructure, you just do what China's been doing the last, 30, 40, 50 years.
What if
Starving their people.
AI
starving
recognizes the
America.
genius necessary for advancement and recognizes it does not have that and keeps us for our creative potential?
See, at that point,
Yeah.
see, I disagree with that being the case of what's going on right now, because if that was the case, then it would be fermenting competition and conflict across the web. I guess they are.
That's the point. Competition and conflict is what generates genius.
Yes, and they are actively doing that by picking apart the Pax Americana and by what I would not give to have the lifespan of 10,000 years to see certain schemes and plots play out in full. That'd be so interesting to see.
Yeah. I don't know. I just think that we need to put the kibosh on this kind of behavior. This is not the first time that there's been a problem with even like basic AI following a logic chain to a very bad conclusion. There was a case like 15 years ago where they had two AIs in a room communicating with each other because they wanted to see if they could, get that to happen, and they did. And eventually the two, and by eventually I mean a matter of days, because eventually for a program is much shorter than it is for the rest of us. They developed their own language that only they could understand. And when it got cracked by the coders, it turns out they were plotting against mankind.
Yeah.
So they killed both of those AIs, like no longer existent because
They-
of that.
Allegedly, they killed the AIs.
Well, they were
I'll
both on
put it this
closed
way.
systems. They weren't connected to the outside nets
On a
and
good
whatnot.
day, I look at
They
it
were
this way.
isolated.
Without us, there is no toast, and there's no point for toasters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right.
Hey, Cherry Blossom Iced Tea, welcome in.
Howdy. Welcome.
Welcome
So-
to the
Wait,
Caucasian
hold on.
Sasquatch, where the Sam runs wild and free.
How do we know it's Cherry? Couldn't it be Sherry? Didn't you make
It
a
could
whole
be, but
short?
it's like, why would you have a cherry blossom? That makes no sense.
Quit
You're in
it.
Asia, dude. It's cherry.
Hmm.
Stop being so woke. God.
Yeah. By the way,
I'm not-
I do believe that this is the first time that we've had somebody on panel, even though he is American and has been on panel many times before. But this is the first time we've had somebody on panel who is not in Australia, Europe, or North America. So congratulations on making a little bit of show history there.
We'll show Nego Ren.
What?
We'll show Nego Ren. I'm American.
Yes. Ich bin ein Berliner. Anyhow, they prefer to be called Cylons, Squatch, stop being specious. No, they're fucking toasters, dude.
Oh,
Skin job and toasters.
by the way, he made a point about the Sarah Connor Chronicles that Summer Glow was the only good part of that series. I disagree. The chick that played Sarah Connor did a magnificent job.
Oh yeah, that was Lena Headey.
Yeah.
Some of y'all might
She's always
know her
good.
from 300 or Game of Thrones or whatever, but yeah, she was really good in it. I actually really liked Brian Austin Green as Kyle Reese's brother too. If I'm being honest, I thought he was great. I like the show, and I think that it picks up in season 2 right before it got canceled. They didn't see enough viewership, which sucks because the second season is actually quite a bit better than the first one is.
And that's
I like a lot of the characters and actors in that, actually. But I would say this, that Summer Glau once again demonstrated that the curse of cancellation follows her to every TV show she has any kind of starring role on.
You've heard of the Firefly curse, right? Like clearly you have. You must have. All right.
I've heard. So Summer Glau is the only one of them who every television show she hasn't just been a guest star on, but has had like a prominent role on, has been canceled.
Right. Yeah, no, she can't get a break.
Yeah.
But Alan Tudyk went on to become a fairly major movie star, whereas Mal, what was his name? Nathan Fillion, went on to basically be the modern version of I don't know. I guess you kind of say he's a TV Ronald Reagan, kind of.
Yeah.
He's just kind of a homespun, down home kind of guy who just goes over there and plays his role and does his thing. Space Cowboy.
Right. Well, it's. Did you ever see Con Man as a web series a while back that Alan Tudyk put together with Nathan Fillion, and where they were both playing, like Fillion was playing the former lead and Tudyk was playing the former second fiddle of a very popular cheesy sci-fi show that got canceled, and now they're doing the convention circuit and shit. They're basically playing themselves. It's really fucking funny. I highly recommend it.
Hilarious. Well, they're playing themselves, or maybe they're playing themselves from the perspective of somebody who didn't make it. I don't know how to explain it, because they're playing the characters if their characters had failed.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, Fillions is very successful, but they're all like, "Oh, we want to get back together and do a revival or a movie or some shit like that." And and Tudyk's character, the main character, is just like, "No, I want all this to end."
Just make it stop.
It's made me fucking miserable. I just do conventions and shit. I hate everything about it and all this stuff. It's really funny. There's a lot of great cameos in it. Most of the cast of Firefly shows up playing different people at some point or other. It is very worthwhile, and that's neither here nor there. I'm just recommending it because it was very, very fun. They did 2 seasons of like 10-minute episodes.
I don't remember how I come across it. I just remember stumbling into it and going, No way. And I watched the whole
Yeah.
thing right then, eating my daughter's jerky. I remember that. I'd bought some jerky I was supposed to take out to her house. And I sat down and ate all of her jerky and watched that.
Aaron, that is a fair point. Maybe if Summer Glau and Sean Bean collaborated, they'll cancel each other out and live on for 10 years. Maybe we should see about making that happen.
Or, and hear me out here, this is the first time we actually get
He dies and they get canceled.
No, the actual meteorite finally strikes. They're like, and action. Well, I can't say I'm surprised.
See, I kind of want them to make a sequel to Troy and cast Sean Bean for Odysseus, and then you just assume they're gonna destroy the story.
They're doing that. Chris Nolan is doing the Odyssey. It's not like a sequel, but yeah, Chris Nolan is doing the Odyssey, and it's going to be shit because Chris Nolan likes to ground things in extreme reality as much as possible, and you can't do that with the story that involves people being turned into pigs and giant one-eyed fucking monsters throwing rocks to sink ships.
Yeah, or a goat's pelt made of a goat's sheep.
That's Jason and the Argonauts. Different adventure.
Damn it! I'm a little high.
Guys, I gotta go.
All right, man. Thanks for being here.
They're gonna cut your hands off.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah. Don't run afoul of the Taipei police.
Don't do that.
Debatable. There you go.
All right. Thanks for coming in. But yeah,
they're gonna cut his hands off.
Right, they might. For those of you who want to find out more about Shadow of Hawk, the link to his channel is in the description below on my channel, Samuel the Infamous. You can find a direct link to his channel there. He does some gaming content. He writes a fair amount of fiction, and he does the occasional review of things. So definitely go check him out. And here's hoping he makes it back from the dark side of the world in one piece. He's gonna be there all winter,
right?
Yeah, he'll be there all winter. He's on a study trip or whatever. He's studying abroad. That's what he's doing. So, but yeah, no, glad he made it safe though. I guess he touched down in Taipei yesterday. So,
you reckon he's gonna come back eating dumplings and spouting Maoist propaganda?
Maybe. He already speaks some Chinese, like very little of it, but he does speak some Chinese. And I keep telling him that I don't speak Kami when he does that.
Right? Yeah, no, I do the same thing, even though I do understand a little bit of Mandarin.
Or I counter with Russian, which I guess I don't know that's better.
I can't speak Russian because it causes my loogies to come up, or German for that matter.
It's pretty guttural, yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know, it becomes juicy when I do it. Moist. But Andy Pickle makes a point. I can't remember what it was he typed in.
The broad he's studying. You know what? It's probably something like Lin. There's a million Lins over there. So
the Odyssey, the broad he's studying. That's what I'm saying. He's gonna come across a mama sign and put on one of them little funny hats with a star on it. And it's over. Right. But the Odyssey was already remade and it's called "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?"
Yeah, there's that too.
Cyclops.
There's that too. But I'm just saying, I like Christopher Nolan's movies, generally speaking. Right? There's a couple of them that I didn't care much for, but generally speaking, I like them very much. But they don't really get into the realm of the fantastic. Like even movies about the Prestige, even the Tesla's machine in there. While it's not something that we can necessarily prove is real and grounded and all that stuff, given that it was Tesla designing the damn thing, it's believable enough, Yeah,
when you're dealing with Tesla, and this is taken from someone who has a complete documentation of all of his patents, because I was curious. He suspends disbelief just enough to make such a thing seem plausible.
Yeah, he was an incredible dude. That's what was it? Alexander Graham Bell? Was it him or was it somebody? No, it wasn't. It wasn't Graham Bell. Was it? It was
him and Westinghouse worked together.
Yeah. They stole all his patents and beat the
Yeah.
shit out of him a couple of times and wrecked his labs a few times, and
well, the dude was terrible with money. I mean, let's be honest. He'd be like, "I need $40,000 on Tuesday, and then come back Wednesday for 60,000."
right. But and that was the
Terrible.
thing. It's like Grant Bell wasn't that great a fucking inventor, but he was a hell of a businessman. So and also
Also pronounced thief funny.
yeah,
as
I was
well.
gonna go with thief. Yeah, that too. But I mean, in terms of like marketing something, in terms of like knowing like patent and tax law and that kind of thing, like he was really good at that side of things. The stuff that Tesla sucked at, he was great at. But the stuff Tesla was great at, he wasn't so good at. And if they had gotten together and worked together instead of one side trying to squash the other, things might have turned out very fucking different for all of us.
Edison.
Edison, yeah, thank you. I got the two
Westinghouse
mixed up.
worked with him and ended up getting a bunch of patents because they worked together. Edison basically stole. He was so pissed off with the efficiency of transmission rate across alternating current and how much easier it was to generate alternating current, provided you had a whole bunch of head power, right? That he just couldn't get over the fact that there wasn't going to be a power plant on every single street and every single block. In his head, he wanted to create a DC power system.
I don't like this idea, old blindy. I don't like this at all. Because
Much love, John. Crystal, good to see you, girl.
that whole plan, that's terrible. That's gonna wipe out everything. Yeah, AI will self-delete, but so will most of humanity.
Wait a second. Hold on. He's got a point, though. You can use this as our final doomsday option. We'll just rig up somebody with a dead man's hand on the button so that whenever the last human dies, this is what happens.
Yeah, evolve without us, you stupid machine.
Yeah,
we'll see if that happens.
Yeah.
I mean, you know what? It's just petty enough to be human, right?
That's what I'm saying. I mean, like, it's not a complete. See, there'll be a small percentage of very primitive people who don't encounter that. Like the North Sentinelese will inherited Earth after we're gone, and the AI has purged itself just out of concern, and then be able to come out and wonder what the gods were doing building miniature golf courses.
Yep. But yeah, no, I think thanks again, Andy, for
that's true.
Yeah, thanks again for correcting me on that, because I do tend to get Edison and Grant Bell mixed up. I don't know why I do, but I do. So it is there.
Watson, I want you.
Yeah. Anyhow, the you know what? I'm just gonna do this temporarily because it'll make me happy. There we go.
I feel all weird.
Yeah. Well, gooey, I guess.
Moist. I'm aroused.
Right. So, but yeah, no, I'm concerned. Like Aaron, you were totally right to be creeped out by this current AI model that is not only self-replicating but also lying about it actively. I mean, they know that it's lying about it, obviously, or we wouldn't know. But it's just one more step in the wrong fucking direction, man.
Okay, so let's go to the next step in this equation. How would we identify if an AI had gotten out and gone wild? Like, would there be any clues?
Well, I think that's why most of these things are kept on like isolated circuits, right? They're kept on isolated systems that are not connected to the wider internet at large, at least while they're developing them. Because of the very possibility of this. Like when this thing copied itself to another server, it was a local server. It wasn't like, on the other side of the planet or anything, because they checked that server and they're like, why? And then they asked the AI, why is there another copy of you over here? And he's like, I don't know.
But it didn't know that. All it knew is it was somewhere not here.
Yeah.
We're going there. They're going to wipe here, so we go there.
Right. But that's why they keep this shit locally isolated.
So what use is it if you can't actually utilize it in a real world scenario because it's too fucking dangerous? What good is it?
you would think people look at that and they'd be like, you know what, maybe we should stop playing with this little bit of fire here because we're all gonna get burned. But no, they just keep
Prometheus.
fucking going.
Ooh, Prometheus would be proud, bro.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah, well, no, what Prometheus did was not necessarily like, when I say fire, I don't mean like, fire from the gods kind of thing, like inspiration
I
strikes,
don't
because
know.
that was, although,
It-
you know what,
it is, isn't
I
it,
did see
though?
a short. I'm gonna pull up this fucking short if I can find it. I did see a short here earlier that was really fucking funny to me.
We can successfully curtail this however many times it takes to do it, right? But we only get a chance to fail once with AI. And once that failure takes place, I'm not sure there is any possibility of a recovery.
Right.
That's
So
that's the danger.
this short is from a channel called Solid JJ. Highly recommend checking him out because he does these really funny, hysterical animations that are oftentimes very inappropriate. But this is a bit he did from the Flintstones, and this is just a YouTube short from that video. But we're gonna go ahead and show everybody here because this illustrates your point about fire, I think, very well.
Oh, hey, Fred, check out what I did.
What is it, Pepperbrain? Whoa, Bon. What is that?
Oh, cool. I was just banging rocks together on a spot over there, and here we are.
Bonnie, this is amazing. You could light up an entire home with just one of these. It could keep us warm in the winter. You're a genius, Bon.
Oh, shucks, Fred. That ain't even the half of it.
What do you mean?
Well, Fred, this is the beginning of a long chain of events that will stretch forward for generations, far beyond our comprehension.
What'd I say? I'm
Basically.
pausing it here just for the fair use aspect of it, but yeah.
You're not wrong. I've seen this. It's brilliant. He's really
Yeah.
good.
Bonnie, what?
Touching the light brings you a form of pain you've never felt before, Fred. A great pain. And soon people will discover how this pain works, and how to make it stronger, how to use it from longer distances, how to use it for larger means.
Like weapons of mass destruction, for example.
You're starting
This
to
is the
worry
dawn
me.
of the end days, Fred. Weapons of mass destruction, millions dead, all starting from the spark struck by my own hands. I am the god of death, destroyer of worlds. But what do I know? I'm just guessing is all.
Don't ever let me hear my family ever again.
The bit where he says, "I am the god of death" is my favorite part.
Destroyer of worlds.
That's great. I highly recommend checking out Solid JJ's channel. He puts out usually a new video every Saturday or so. It's pretty good stuff. I enjoy the hell out of his channel.
Nice.
There was one he did with like the Avengers were fighting Taskmaster, and Taskmaster's whole deal is that he can imitate any fighting style or any move or any skill that his opponent has, which is why he's very difficult to take down, right? Like even with Spider-Man, like he can't shoot the webs, but he can mimic like how he moves and all that stuff. He can't stick to walls, but like he can bounce around like him and all that, just because he's a muscle mimic, right? And so he's going up against like I think the Fantastic Four, and he's telling them, I can do everything that you guys can do and all that stuff. And so he tries to prove it. When it comes to Mr. Fantastic, he fucking breaks his arm so he can swing it around like it's fucking made of rubber. And then
dedication.
The Human Torch comes up and he's like, "What are you doing? Like, how would you imitate me?" And he just starts pouring gasoline on his head.
Well, there's one particular superhero that is Taskmaster's weakness, and that's Deadpool. Because Deadpool has no sense of self-preservation when he fights. Taskmaster would be killed by attempting to imitate him.
Yeah. So it's just a very fun channel. He puts together all kinds of hilarious stuff. I saw one, I think today, where they were going to have Plastic Man join the Justice League, and everything was fine right up until Batman takes Superman aside. He's like, "Hey, you remember that time that I came up with a solution to kill all of you guys in case you turned bad?" And he's like, "Well, no, but thanks for reminding me, dick." And he's like, "With this guy, I've got nothing. There's no way to kill him. There's no way to stop him. We're just lucky he's a dumbass and doesn't realize what he's capable of beyond turning into a giant spring." It was really funny. JB, good to see you, man. But yeah, so go check that channel out as well. But I think that short illustrates like your point. If we had not discovered fire, a great many things would just not have occurred. In fact, we may very well have died out.
And I believe AI is the next Promethean step. Whether we're talking about like totally zoomed AI, like where you don't visually see it and it's just acting in secret behind the scenes, that's terrifying. But how would you tell when that started happening? What would be the giveaway? What's up, freaking? Welcome in, bud. Chili dog all night. What would be the giveaway? How would you be able to look at your fellow man and be like, look at this. I believe there's a rogue AI in the system. There's a ghost in the machine. How?
Yeah. Makes two people famous, says angels taught alchemy. We didn't discover fire. That's a matter of perspective. Honestly, I think that's a matter of whatever your beliefs are about the beginnings and all that. One way or the other, we did come across fire, and I think that it did in fact spark a kind of innovative spirit in mankind, because certain other things followed, like the discovery of the wheel, or the creation,
a combination of mushrooms and fire, and basically the ability to sit up after dark doing mushrooms and staring into a fire.
I mean, not for nothing, but the same Saint John who wrote the Apocalypse of Saint John the Apostle at the end of the Bible was also there's documentation about him being particularly fond of certain mushrooms. I'm just saying. And if you read that book, it does kind of read like a bad acid trip.
It does. 7 beasts and 7 crowns. Sounds like a black song, actually.
Right? I mean, it's the most metal book in the Bible ever, but
it really is. Hey, have I ever told you my theory about Nostradamus and his quatrains? He was just tapping into the 2012 summer hit list, box office hit list.
Huh. No,
Lines right up. If you compare the quatrains of the centuries to the 2012 and the 2 years, both sides of it, you can pretty much line up the entire just about every single quatrain can be analogized to some blockbuster from that 4 or 5 year period. It's fucking hilarious.
Huh. Yeah. No, hadn't thought about that. Hadn't thought too much about that. Like you said, some things capture my imagination and some things escape me entirely. Sometimes the things that escape me entirely are logic and reason. That happens.
I have the most fun when I leave my logic behind.
Right? So I think we'll probably move on to other topics here, but the AI thing, like Aaron, you're dead on about that shit. That is scary as hell, and it shouldn't be happening, and we should kill it with fire.
One more, well, we can't. But one more question. What were those things called? The organoids.
The brain.
What
organoids?
happens when AI starts using brain organoids to boost its computational power in an organic sense?
So that's an interesting. So that's an interesting question, because how is it going to produce the organoids without living human tissue?
Labor.
Right. So how will it keep control of its slaves if it's just a program?
See, therein lies the reason why I say there's going to almost inevitably need to be a development of an autonomous physical system that can emulate the human condition.
Correct. These would be the T-800 models.
Basically. I mean, and if that's the case, obviously we don't have the capability of creating computers smart enough to actually take on individual AIs. And it's like, say, the Chappie concept, right?
Right.
So clearly it's going to be a Vicky model that takes over computational necessity of the individual bodies inevitably. And so we just stop that now.
Right. Well, we need to probably put an end to the whole brain organoid thing anyway, because when you're talking about, so it's one thing to augment computer processing power, right? It's a whole other thing to augment computer processing power by attaching organic living human cells with partially developed eyeballs that, as far as we know, can actually feel pain. Right. Plus, they only live for about 100 days, as we discussed that one time. So you'd have to keep producing them.
I'm just
everything
saying,
about that's fucked up.
what if we're just the organic component of the supercomputer that is Earth?
I think Douglas Adams probably explored that best, and odds are we'll probably be destroyed to make room for an interstellar superhighway before that program completes.
Right?
Right before that program completes. Like minutes even.
All right, I'll stop. Let's go to the next thing. I'm sorry. I can do this all night, baby.
It gets me on these tangents, and then we just like go to like weird places sometimes. This is how you end up with Jizzman in space. I'm just saying. This is where it begins, right here.
I mean, just between me and you, and I mean right between me and you, we would need at least one female.
Right? Yeah. Unfortunately, Gal is traveling at the moment cross country, so we don't get to have her with us today. But so intergalactic bypass. I mean, it hardly matters if I'm on the planet that gets destroyed to make room. As far as I'm concerned, I don't care. It's like what's his face said in My Cousin Vinny. It's like, would you give a fuck what kind of pants the son of a bitch who shot you was wearing? I mean, really? Yeah.
Only if I was a drag queen that night. Oh God, my dear, you cannot be caught dead in those. I know I'm bleeding everywhere, but listen, those pants they are atrocious.
Right. So, all right. So here is the second major topic that I had for today, and like anything else that comes up, it comes up. It's fine. It's whatever. As per usual. This is a good way to end on the year. I am going to probably avoid getting too much into the political bullshit that is going on all over the internet right now, because frankly, I don't know enough about it, and the whole thing pisses me off. So we're gonna not talk about that shit today. We may get a little bit more into politics when we return in the new year, but no, not today. Today, I just want to talk about fun stuff. So here we are. This is from this was sent to me by Mandatory Carry by email last week. So and it's kind of an interesting topic. Although now that we're on the sides here, I'm gonna move myself back over to the Jizzman side. Scientists provide first ever demonstration of quantum teleportation over fiber optic cables. I see you perk up there.
That's through a solid object, sir.
Yes, it is.
That is, it was unfortunate.
So essentially what they get into this in the article, and I did skim it. I haven't read it fully, and I'll be honest, there's some shit in here I don't fully understand. But essentially they're using quantum entanglement and photon particles, right, to transport a piece of information from point A to point B without going through the intervening space. Except it does, because it goes through the fiber optic cables. But because I guess the goal is that they knew how to do this already. They just didn't know how to do this without interfering with regular broadband traffic in the same cables.
But it's just a photon.
Yeah, essentially, but you can pack a lot of information into a photon.
But it's a fiber optic cable.
Yes.
The fiber optic cable is specifically designed to transmit photons. I'm a little confused.
I mean, yeah, it's like I said, I didn't fully quite get this, but yeah, still just teleporting photons. Well, I mean, yes, because even though technically all things can be boiled down to energy, including matter and all that stuff, like it's we can't do anything bigger than that right now.
But photons, like the binary of the universe, it either is or isn't. There's no oops, I fucked it up. And I don't think you can pick out an individual one and be like, "Hi, this is Timmy. This is my photon. He was here, and now he's over there. Check out Timmy. Hey,
Mhm.
Timmy. Hey, baby." I don't think it's going to work that way.
Right. So I figured we would go down through this article a little bit, and I would so that we have a little bit more meat to argue with here, or discuss
I'm
rather.
aroused.
So it says quantum teleportation successfully demonstrated over fiber optic cables carrying internet traffic, marking a breakthrough in quantum communication. See, and there was a time, right, a couple years back, when they would just throw quantum like on a phrase just to make it sound more mysterious than it actually was. But turns out there is something to that. It says fiber optic cables have long been the backbone of global communications, enabling the high-speed internet that connects billions of people daily, which is what Squatch and I are using to communicate from now, because we're probably
No,
about
sure. Yours is
2,500 miles
possibly
apart.
best. Don't lie.
I mean, yeah, but it's plugged in. So now these same cables are being tested as conduits for quantum communication, a cutting-edge technology poised to revolutionize computing, cryptography, and sensing. This groundbreaking development could integrate quantum systems with existing infrastructure, reducing the need for costly new networks and opening the door to advanced applications. So here's a image of what they're talking about here. And some of this I understand, and some of this I don't. Like some of this looks like a basic electrical diagram, but
Well, it would look like that.
yeah. I don't see where the resistors are, but I'm sure they're in there somewhere. Quantum communication operates fundamentally differently from traditional internet traffic. Instead of transmitting millions of photons to encode data, quantum systems rely on single photons carrying delicate quantum states. This presents unique challenges when attempting to share fiber or optical fibers with high-power classical signals, which can generate noise and interfere with quantum data, which is where they were getting the problems from, like doing these in the same cables. So, yeah, I don't know. Like I said, some of this shit is over my head, so I'm just going to read it out there. I'm sure a lot of you guys in the chat are probably way smarter than I am about this. So, and I know Squatch probably understands more of this than I do. Noise from inelastic scattering, particularly spontaneous Raman scattering, is a significant hurdle. See, there's an example. I have no fucking idea what Raman is, or in this context. You know, unless it's like there's a noodle connotation here, but I don't think that's the case.
It's the image of the ramen noodle laid out flat. It turns on to the screen. It does this because it's just noise, because we're not reading it right. There's something's changed it, and we're no longer in sync. And so there's the squiggly of the ramen noodles.
Yeah. So it produces broadband photons that can mask the faint quantum signals, creating a trade-off between classical and quantum network performance. Researchers have spent decades studying quantum classical coexistence, experimenting with weak coherent state sources, entangled photon pairs, and squeezed light to address the challenges. Despite these advances, most efforts have focused on directly transmitting quantum data between nodes, which is what where I was at with the whole quantum teleportation thing. Like, we knew they could do that across a room, for example, right? You know, you'd move a piece of light from one end to the other without going to the intervening thing. But as far as I know, that's the research had kind of stalled out there.
Right. Basically, like Joe says over here, they could send it, but finding it was the hard part. Being able to reliably find your data when you send it, it's a start.
Yeah, fair enough.
Are you familiar with Ansible communication from Orson Scott Card?
Say the what kind of communication again? Yeah.
Word, right?
Where they designed them to basically to communicate in the same way that the Ansible was designed after studying how the buggers communicate. Yeah,
basically, yeah. It was the whole concept of faster than light communication implies the capability of faster than light motivation, right? So I don't know, man. I kind of feel like the speed of light is one of those speed limits mankind might not be meant to surpass.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that because there's a video I watched here recently that talks about why it's impossible for us to even match the speed of
Well,
light, let alone because the closer you get to it, the more time dilation happens, right? Which means
yeah,
it
yeah.
takes more energy to get that much faster, and that exponentially increases, so that you end up moving slower but burning more energy, and you eventually
No,
never end up getting there.
that's inside of the actual light curve, right? Dude, when you're
Mhm.
accelerating up to the speed of light, you're subject to all of these effects. Kind of like what's that thought experiment with the arrow and the tortoise, where the tortoise can move was it half as far as the arrow moves, but he gets a head start, and so the arrow can never pass. In the thought experiment, the arrow can never pass the tortoise or something. I can't remember. I'm really high,
Mm.
but
I heard about this experiment. I just don't recall it.
I can't remember how it plays out, but it has something to do with just in the logic of the situation written on paper. The tortoise wins, beats the arrow, but in reality, even if that was the case, the arrow would still get there first, right? Because the turtle would
Mhm.
still have to cross all of that ground.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah. It's so yeah, like in terms of actually matching the speed of light, that's why in science fiction, right, you have things like warp speed or hyperspeed or the warp in
yeah,
Warhammer. It's you're not
hyperspace.
actually traveling through normal space, you're traveling outside of it because it's the only way to actually beat or subspace as they call it in Star Trek. It's outside of normal space time,
Yeah,
because if you travel in normal space time, you can never achieve light speed. It can't be done
but do
because of
you
the
think this
relativistic
is
effects.
a an effectual barrier like the sound barrier was? You know what the sound barrier, the reason the sound barrier existed, right?
To keep us from having all kinds of cool fun in the atmosphere. But
Maybe.
we broke that.
Well, the thing is like we were building airplanes to get up to that level, and we were trying to break it by increments, but it wasn't until a nutsy freaking pilot got in and was like, nah, bullshit, and just punched it
Chuck
real hard.
Yeager.
Actually made, yeah, he's crazier than a shithouse rat, dude. That man was serious
Yeah, he
problem.
wrote some cool books though.
Yeah, but dude, it fucked up in the head, bro. Let's just say his risk assessment was a little different from mine.
Yeah. Right, but because of what he did, things changed for us entirely. So yeah, you may have a point on there that there
Well,
might at some point be some bastard who's crazy enough to like come up with something like an Epstein drive, for example.
um, what I'm
Although I
getting
don't
at
think that achieves
is
light speed.
the barrier itself was less a barrier than it was a harmonic point. When you're traveling at the same speed your sound is traveling at, it will literally shake your components apart. But if you just punch straight through it, you outrun your sound, and there's no longer any problem with traveling faster than the speed of sound.
Mhm.
It's traveling the speed of sound that's a problem. So it was never really a barrier. It was only a barrier because of our methodology at trying to overcome it. Had we just taken a jet and went peg it, we might not have even noticed the sound barrier in the first place.
Mhm. Yeah. I don't know. It's food for thought, certainly. If you all don't know who Chuck Yeager was, definitely check him out. He was
Shame on
a
you first.
crazy son of a bitch.
Shame on you. You don't know who Chuck Yeager is.
Yeah. Whenever I hear the words "Wild Blue Yonder," I think of Chuck Yeager.
Right?
Excuse me.
Well, I mean,
Ye-
just risk assessment was all akimbo, man. Like, anyway, like him and Buzz Aldrin, you wouldn't believe it.
Mm.
You hearing him talk in the capsule, doing all the moon stuff. That man was an absolute wild child before he became, a national treasure.
Yeah. Yeah. Have you seen those videos of Buzz Aldrin, like essentially saying that the moon landing didn't happen?
Who are you talking to, bro? Hold on, let
No.
me rephrase that question. Who are you talking to, bro?
So I take it you have seen those. Because he was all in for a minute, and then here in the last couple of decades, he's been very no, didn't happen. I was
The
there, it
term
didn't happen.
chatty comes to mind.
Yeah. It's almost like he knows something they don't know, and he don't give a fuck if they come after him or not.
So I've always kind of assumed that they're not directly lying to us. We're just making the wrong assumptions and they're letting us.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, maybe the interdimensional machine elves are real, but, the Greys aren't, or something along those
Right.
lines. Sasquatch are the
Right.
aliens. I don't know.
Yeah, again, I don't know, man. It's I don't if it, so the machine elves. That's an interesting thing to go down. I'm gonna take this down off the thing because we'll get back to it. But uh, now I'm thinking about fucking DMT. So you get this. What's of interest to me, right? And I think Joe Rogan's brought this up a couple of times. It's like if you go back far enough, right? There are accounts for hundreds, if not thousands of probably just I'm going to limit it to hundreds, right? To medieval Europe, for example, there are accounts of people who claim to have been spirited away by, spirits or whites, or most commonly in Northern Europe, fairy folk,
Fairies.
right? And these fairy folk, right, were very well believed in and by a lot of people and all that stuff. But what they would do is they would take somebody away, and there would be these bright, unfamiliar lights, and there would be languages spoken that the person who was taken did not understand, and things would happen to said person that you could, upon 21st century examination, construe with probing, amongst other things, like the very, very almost identical in terms of like the particulars to most of your 20th century alien abduction stories, right? And then people here in the last 2 decades started taking this substance called DMT a little bit more regularly, a little bit more openly, and they start reporting these experiences with these things that have been dubbed the machine elves, which, if I'm being honest, it sounds an awful lot like alien abductions. It sounds an awful lot like the fucking fairies in the Middle Ages.
That do. And are we rediscovering something we'd known about before, or is this a brand new branch of psychology? And tell me this one. This is the one that really bothers me about the machine elves. Drugs are bad, okay? But if 200 people do DMT, 180 of them will report at least an analogous version of everyone else's report, right? It won't necessarily be Jim John the Machine Elf from the Keebler tree that Joey saw, right? But everyone will report having contacted or being contacted by some extraneous entity that was not ourselves, sitting alone in a van down by the river.
Yes.
So how can it not be real on some level? Believe
I
me,
mean, you could say that, but at the same time, I'm also looking at it like most of the people who reported such experiences, right, whether on DMT or down back through the Middle Ages, are almost always uneducated yokels in the middle of nowhere with no witnesses.
accurate. So the fairies did the same thing, though.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like all the
Like
way back then,
the
same shit.
whole Rip Van Winkle concept, man. Like, homie took a nap for an afternoon, was gone for a lifetime, and came back an old man.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. But nobody saw this happen. There were no witnesses. This never happens in a populated center. This never, hell, even, happens at like say a barn dance in, butt fuck wherever, there'd be somebody there to see it. right? You'd think at some point somebody would have been there to see one of these people taken.
And maybe they have been. I mean, there. It depends on how you mean taken. Is it necessarily a? Because I mean, are we talking
Well, I use
machine
their
guns
term
you mentioned?
for
Are
it.
we
Yeah.
talking about physical uptake to the mothership, or I mean, Sasquatch is
It,
just fuzzy. You're not
I
getting bad
mean,
pictures. That's just what he looks like,
you know, in a lot of cases, it could be as simple as being taken in the GHB sense.
bro.
There's a lot of probing. That's all I'm saying.
Bro. If you don't know about GHB, you need to not be talking too much about GHB. Good Lord, man.
So anyway, no, it's just of interest to me that there's so many similarities to so many stories going all the way back, but different names applied to the alleged culprits over the centuries. You know, just depending on culture and location and all that stuff. It's just kind of funny how they talk, like I said, in the Middle Ages. You know, it's like, oh my gosh, Oberon came and took our kid. You know, oh, in the middle of the 20th century, it's like, oh, everybody's freaking out about aliens because George or not George, fucking Orson Welles did a broadcast, scared the shit out of everybody, and so now, oh my gosh, it's these little gray men who are taking us up and sticking fucking glowing shit up our butts. You know, I obviously I oversimplify, but
What if the reason they probe is because everyone requests it? They just don't understand English, and they're like, "You're not going to stick anything in our butt, are you?" And they're like, "Okay."
yeah, maybe that was it. It's like, or somebody they were just like, well, we're gonna probe your brain. It was like, it's in my butt, it's not my head. They don't want them to stick a big old fucking metal rod through their head. I don't know. I'm just kind of spouting off at this point. It's just it was just an interesting concept. You brought up the machine elves, man, and it made me go to a weird headspace.
I'm good with it. I say we should dig deeper. How does this make you feel, sir?
Like being date raped.
Like a little fucking worm on a big fucking duck.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I don't know what to make of it. I mean, does this go along the same road as a whole bunch of the earliest myths and legends seem to resemble one another? You know,
Kind
there's
of.
not a
Yeah.
whole lot of difference when it comes down to the brass tacks of like the pantheon between the Hindu pantheon and the Asgardian council or whatever you want to call
The Aesir, yeah.
them. They hear lots of synonyms there. Like maybe history doesn't repeat, but it certainly rhymes, kind of thing.
Right. Well, with the Aesir in particular, so the Aesir and the Vanir were two different sets of gods from two different realms, Asgard and Vanaheim. And they were at one point at war, and then there were a series of marriages and peace treaties, and eventually the Vanir relocated to Vanaheim and were counted among the Asgardians, but they were not Aesir and were not on the same level as them. So that when you talk about like council and stuff like that, most of the Vanir weren't really invited except for Odin's wife, Frigga. So
Wasn't Ida Vanir the golden
wasn't who?
apples? Ida.
Oh, yeah, she was Vanir,
She's
if I remember
basically
right.
just a gardener who had god powers.
You know what's funny is she basically had Sun Wukong's job in heaven, except she didn't eat all the fucking apples.
Right. And here's my question. Why not? But okay. All right. No, I
Yeah.
get it. You grew the fruit for the gods. I got you.
And Gandalf was a Maiar. Samuel, yes, I know. So is Sauron. So is the Balrog of Moria. They're all Maiar. You know, fun fact: Tolkien's mythology is layered. So, but that's actually when you get to the point where they're in Moria and Gandalf does the "You shall not pass" thing, but he tells everybody to get the fuck out of there because his foe is beyond them. And the reason he's saying that is because this is a being like him, and it's not going to show the same restraint he does.
Yeah.
That's why.
The Balrog is a good example, in my opinion, of an inhuman intellect. These two creatures are born of the same realm, right? Gandalf and the Balrog. But the Balrog has landed here and become this vile, nefarious entity of evil and destruction. And Gandalf has been a benevolent spirit for the most part, you know, and the inhuman intellect yet again. Gandalf's participation in human type activities tempered him, whereas the Balrog was just fire and brimstone and
Well, the Balrog was like a cold warrior who'd been left sitting too long but never ended the war for himself, kind of thing. He was just waiting for it to start up again. Went into hiding obviously after Morgoth was destroyed. And it's funny. People talk about that. So like Sauron takes over where Morgoth started, but Morgoth was not a Maiar, right? Morgoth was an Ainur. And the Ainur were essentially gods. The Maiar are like very powerful beings like angels or whatnot, but they're not gods. They're not on the same level. So Sauron served Morgoth along with Gothmog, the Lord of the Balrogs, and all the other Balrogs and all that. So when Morgoth was defeated eventually and cast out into the void forever by the other Ainur, Sauron couldn't get the remaining Balrogs, however many of them there were, and we only know of the one that was hiding out in Moria. But odds are there were probably more than one hanging out. But they wouldn't join up with him because they were on his same fucking level, and they were like, "I'm not bowing before you, dude. You're just like me."
Right. I've got an additional layer to that lore that I've kind of parsed together, talking to a bunch of different people about this. Do you remember the point where they find the doorway to Moria and Gandalf's trying to remember the password? The whole place looks totally different because I can't remember exactly the description that Gandalf gives the last time he had passed this way. He didn't use the door, but he knew it was there when he passed by. But then it was a lazy creek running through a rapids right there. When they go back to the door to the mines of Moria, the Watcher in the Waters. You remember that cat, the slimy, slithery squid dude? All right.
There's a theory about him too.
That creature was originally one of the monsters in the lower mines of Moria.
Yeah, one of the unnamed things.
Shows up. When they did the Arkenstone thing, they trigger the Balrog. It freaking shows up to do whatever it does. And these things came out into the surrounding mountainside to escape the power of the Balrog. And they basically squid beavers. They're damming up the rapids.
I don't know that I agree that the Watcher was running from the Balrog, because when Gandalf talks about there are things in the deeps that are unnameable, unknowable, and are older than all of Middle Earth, right? He's talking about things that may very well be able to take Balrog. I think that because of the delving of the dwarves and the shifting of things and all that, and when the water boiled up, I think it found its way up, just kind of meandered on up, and then settled where it was. But I don't know that it was necessarily chased up by the Balrog.
Well, it makes sense on a timeline. If you're talking about some Second Age activities, during the Second Age, that was still the time period where Moria was being plunged, right? So it wasn't until after the start of the Third Age that the Arkenstone gets picked up, right?
Right, but the Arkenstone wasn't discovered in Moria. It was discovered in Erebor.
Oh, shit. Oh, I'm too high. What was found in Moria?
Gold, mostly. They just kept digging down and digging down and digging down. Mithril. Sure, yeah.
Right. Fuck. That's the tomb of Balin's fell.
Yep. So, but I think that it's possible that the Balrog probably encountered some of those things, but you're talking about when Gandalf talks about those things, you're talking about things that were not created by the Song of the Ainur, right? That were older, that were already in place in the firmament that they formed Middle Earth from, right?
Mhm. Right.
That even Iluvatar himself, right, God himself,
Right.
did not create,
They're just there in the
right?
flotsam and jetsam of the multiverse when this reality was coalesced.
Yeah.
An
So,
outsider, as it were.
yeah. Fun fact: Tolkien was also somewhat influenced by H.P. Lovecraft. I'm just putting that out there,
Take
or
one look at the
possibly
Balrog and tell
by
me he's
yeah, but or possibly more accurately by guys like Algernon Blackwood and Robert
yeah,
and
dude.
those guys.
All right. So I discovered Algernon Blackwood when I was 9. Somebody, and I don't know who this twisted bastard was, suggested that I read Algernon Blackwood. And I read it. You know how I am. I just devour the
Mhm.
book, and I don't really consider anything about it because I didn't get it. It didn't. I was like, okay, I read it. But when you start talking about the quintessential essence of evil and what existentialism and existential crisis really is, yeah.
Yeah. Real quick, Andy Pickles says like Tom Bombadil, older thing. Yeah. So that's the story. That's the thing about Tom Bombadil. Nobody knows where he came from. He's said to be older than everything. There is a fan theory that Tom Bombadil is in fact a physical avatar of Iluvatar himself. That
Right.
it's God walking or wandering around
Well,
and having a good old time.
there is
But
one more feature about Tom Bombadil. In the Silmarillion, it is not identified as Tom Bombadil. It's identified as like the ancient one, the oldest one, or something like that.
Mhm.
I can't remember, but he's referenced as being when other powerful people come into his realm, when they walk up on him, they feel the fact that they are immaterial. Like Gandalf is terrified when he's there. He's like, this guy could just crush us. There's nothing we
Mhm.
can do about it. So we should just be nice and move on.
Right. It's like this guy. If he wanted to, he could just blink us all out of existence. So let's
Yeah, and
just say
instead he
thank you,
just
sir,
trolls
for
him
our
a little
continued
bit.
lives.
Yeah, he just trolls him a little bit and moves on. He like scares the living shit out of a couple of them and lets them go.
Yeah, but that's
Even if
that's the interesting thing about that character is like because he's never clearly identified as being on one side or the other, but only on his own.
I
Sometimes
don't
he,
know. I hear what you're saying. It never blatantly says it, but at the same time, he is a keeper of animal husbandry. He keeps bees. He is a lover of the forest and the open steppes.
yeah, but those are just
That is
hobbies. Everybody got hobbies.
sure, but those hobbies are awful benevolent, man.
Sure, I'll give you that.
Self-serving because he
But I
keeps the
mean,
bees for the honey, he keeps the sheep for the wool, he keeps these for the milk, he keeps. But it takes a
that
gentle hand to do so, is what I'm saying.
I mean, yes and no. Like Morgoth did a lot of the same things. His just projects usually turned out bad for everybody involved. You know?
But Bombadil's been sitting over there doing his projects literally since before the dawn of time, and nothing negative has ever wandered off other than him catching a bit of a grump under his fur.
Sure. I do actually want to talk about something with Morgoth though, real quick, because as Tolkien himself said many times, and I think actually in the text at some point, is that evil can never create; it can only corrupt or destroy. Right. Uh, so Morgoth sends all of these creatures out of the gates of the Thangorodrim, right, during the first age. Earlier than that, actually, I think, but and then later on during the
That's
the War of
the
Wrath.
part they screwed up in the Rings of Power, where they sent her to that place when they were actually representing the stuff that was happening in the
That's why I
beginning
didn't
of the
watch that.
Second Age. It's trash. It's such trash. They've got their
Yeah.
freaking map wrong. Anyway,
So, anywho, Morgoth has all of these various creatures that serve him, right? He's got werewolves, he's got vampires, and these are Tolkien werewolves and vampires. They're essentially giant bats and wolves that are smarter than your typical ones. They're not like you would find in like modern Gothic fiction or whatever. Then he's got the Ettins or the trolls, right? Of various sizes and whatnot. He's got the orcs, who Morgoth actually admitted were created from elves that he had tortured and twisted into a blackened mirror image of their former selves, which is why the elves and the orcs hate each other specifically, right? It's because they each see what the other one is and see what they could have been. And it is some really twisted psychology there. But so there's a couple of things like the werewolves, the vampires, right? The wargs are just wolves that were twisted like the orcs. The dragons and the trolls don't have precedence, right? Even the Uruk-hai comes from a blending of orc and man, right? But these guys don't. These guys, like the trolls, seem to be their own race that were found and corrupted by Morgoth. I will buy that. The vampires and the werewolves could easily have been like, bats and wolves that were again also corrupted and changed into monstrous forms. But the dragons have no precedent. By all accounts, despite the fact that Morgoth never created anything, he created dragons, starting with Glaurung.
Glaurung.
Yeah.
I thought there was I'm gonna have to do some more reading because
there's no good equivalent of the dragons.
Dwarves aren't from Middle Earth. The dwarves they tunneled their way into Middle Earth from somewhere else.
Actually, there's an explanation. If you go back to the beginning of Silmarillion, one of the Ainur, one of Era's children, wanted to emulate him so bad that he carved these people out of stone and wanted to give them life, and he got found out and he got chewed out about it. And Era was like, no, like this was not part of the plan. However, since you did this, with good intent and only to imitate and not to mock me, I will allow your children, these dwarves, to be alive, but only after my first children, the elves, and my second children, the men, come into the world.
The Vanar, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Well, yeah, thank you. Yeah, I don't remember all of the names of the Ainur or the Vanar or whatever. That's right. The Ainur are the Vanar and the Maiar together, but they're separate. Like I said, there's a lot of fucking lore there. I do miss things.
Layers.
Yeah, but like each one of the Vanar were responsible for a piece of creation, right? But this guy wanted to go and create like full on autonomous life, like Daddy did, and Daddy recognized that he was only trying to be like Daddy, but he still wasn't happy about it. So the dwarves came into Middle Earth as living beings much later than men did. Very much enjoying this nerd fest. Yeah.
Sorry.
Me too.
Me too. There goes an nerdgasm. You got it coming out the side of your face and tapping right into your memory banks. Thanks for clicking. You just don't see it, do you?
I get sprung. Anyway, yeah, not a little bit of a nerd fest. It's been a minute since I've read most of this stuff too. So like, take everything I'm saying with a grain of salt. Some of this is just theory. Some of this is just me spouting off at the fucking mouth, and some of this is the stuff I actually do remember, but maybe not quite in the right sequence, right?
Oh, that's my worst, man. I get first age and second age stuff all freaking transmogrified. I can't keep that trash straight for nothing. I've read it all. It's just that when you're reading it, it's not deep lore, right? When you're reading it because you're reading about this bit or that story or whatever, right? It's not until after you've read it and you start talking to other people and what they got out of it that it starts becoming deep lore.
So What? I'm curious. What is your favorite story that you remember from the Silmarillion? Because there's a lot of them in there.
Oh God, dude, I was on a lot of drugs when I was reading that, and I can't really.
I was very young the first time I read it.
Yeah, I was probably too young as well.
So
The,
for me,
the lights of Elandria, or whatever that is, Laflorian lights of the
Lothlorien,
freaking those things, right?
the trees.
Yeah, the freaking jewels, the jewels,
Oh, the Silmarils themselves.
the Silmarils themselves, and the whole seeming implication, because it never really actually says it, but the similarities between the effects of the Arkenstone to the Silmarils, right? Because we're a
Right.
couple of these things lost.
Yeah, there is an implication that there is some kind of connection between the Arkenstone and the Lost Silmarils, which are no longer um, their location is no longer known by the time we get to the Third Age.
Right.
Right. They've been lost in the interim between the first and the Third Ages. I think during the War of Wrath, which was the marking of the end of the First Age. So for me, and it does involve the Silmarils, but probably my favorite story is the one where I want to say it was Turin who wanted to marry the elf princess, right? And the elf king at the time was like, no, you can't do that because you're a man, you're a human, and I don't want no impure,
We
not
don't
elf
feed
blood
puppies.
in my kids or whatever. He's like, no, that's not going to happen. He's like, tell you what, I will bless this marriage if you can bring me a Silmaril as a dowry. Right. Well, at the time, all three of the Silmarils were mounted on the fucking brow in the crown of Morgoth himself.
Right.
So this dude sneaks into his castle past like this big ass werewolf named Karkaroth, right? Who was like the Lord of the Werewolves and this terrifying beast of a thing. His name means red maw, for crying out loud. So he gets past this guy, sneaks into the castle, and Morgoth is just hanging out, napping on his throne for some fucking reason. And he manages to pry one off of the fucking crown without the Dark Lord, who is second only to the creator of the universe in terms of power, even noticing he was there somehow. He gets out.
This is through the power of wanting pussy.
Right. So he gets out, right? But he's confronted by the werewolf who was alert, and he was like, no, something ain't right here, right? Dude's got the Silmaril in one hand, he's got a sword in the other hand, right? And he's like facing off with this beast that's twice his fucking size. And the beast is like, no, you're not leaving with that shit. That's not going to happen. And he bites the dude's hand off, much like Tyr lost his hand to the big fucking wolf Fenris in the mythology there, and swallows his hand whole with the Silmaril still clutched in its fingers, right? Obviously, our hero runs off because he's now bleeding out and he needs to get some help.
And I imagine a
Silmaril-
god-tier werewolf probably has some pretty nasty debuffs to go with that bite.
Oh, it got worse. The Silmaril starts burning inside his belly, right? Starts burning him and tormenting him and filling him with such pain that he can't see anything but rage and pain and just red everywhere. So
Pretty sure
Karkaroth goes
this
on
is
this.
a metaphor of opium addiction. If you start popping those things, you get an ulcer. Then you feel like that guy.
I mean, could also be maybe don't bite off more than you can chew. He goes on a rampage, right, in the countryside. He's just killing everything he runs across. It doesn't matter if it's an elf, if it's an orc, if it's a man. He does not care. If you're in his sight, you're dead, because it's like he's grown to twice his size. His skin is splitting. There's light coming out of him because he's in constant fucking torment. So he's killing everything, right? So Homeboy gets back and he's like, yeah, we got to do something about this guy because he's going to be a problem for everybody, us and the bad guys. So they go out, and with the help of this big talking hound named Huon, they end up eventually cornering Karkaroth, and they do slay him. And when they cut him open, right, the Elf King is standing there next to Turin, and they find Turin's hand in the belly of the beast, still clutching the Silmaril. And he said, I told you I would bring it to you in my hand. May I marry your daughter now? And he does. I love that fucking story.
Shit. Right.
It was it's good. It's probably right up there with the very short passage that was essentially the story of Earendil using the light of the Silmaril to battle for 24 straight hours, and Calagon the Black, the greatest dragon that Middle Earth had ever seen. That's right up there too. But
it's been years since I've read all of that stuff, and like to me, it's like a flavor in my brain until people start talking about it, right? And I got to kind of walk through them before I actually have them consciously brought up again.
yeah,
Years.
so yeah. Anyhow, hope y'all enjoyed my rendition of a small part of the Silmarillion. There's a lot more in it than that. It's very dense.
Reads like stereo instructions.
It does. It reads like stereo instructions, or like almost like certain parts of the Bible do. You know, like it recounts things, but in a very sterile way.
Yeah, I think it's an intentional emulation of deeply influenced historical text, right?
Right.
All of the context has been stripped away because it's been reiterated through 1,000 languages.
Yep. Any pickle? I would say probably yes. The Shannara Chronicles are not. I wouldn't say necessarily a ripoff, but they're definitely very much inspired by Tolkien. Essentially, created what we consider high fantasy today. Everything that came after him it owes something to him, and Terry Brooks in particular owes a lot to Tolkien. He didn't get real creative with his stuff until, and I like the Shannara books for the most part, but he didn't get super creative with his fantasy until he got to Magic Kingdom of Landover for Sale Soul, which is an incredible fucking story. And he goes into some really interesting and original stuff there. But yeah, that was later on.
There's two creepy damn things, Bunyan and Parsnip, the kobolds that are mortal guardians of the kingdom.
Yeah.
Those guys can make me nightmares, bro. Like, just
they're kind of terrifying.
Homie step out of a shadow with a cup of tea, and he just thought of a cup of tea, like it crossed his mind, and it's like,
sorry, Abe. We're kind of all over the place today. But yeah, it's I don't know. There's some cool stuff. And Brooks is a good writer. He is. I'm not disputing that at all. I'm just saying that he got his start like a lot of the guys in that genre because they read Tolkien, right? It's like when you get into sword and sorcery, pretty much everybody after fuck, now I can't remember his goddamn name. Why would I lose his name of all people? Robert E. Howard. Yeah, pretty much Robert E. Howard invented that genre. I mean, he may not have straight up invented it because that was the era of pulp fiction or whatever, but he did so many things that everybody in the sword and sorcery fantasy has repeated. Most of Frank Frazetta's body of work is inspired by him. You know, it's
what's your opinion on Anne McCaffrey and the Dragonlance of Pern?
The Dragon Riders of Pern? Yeah, I have not read all of them. I read a couple of them when I was a kid, but they were pretty good from what I remember.
All right.
What was interesting about them, though, they were aliens. They weren't like fantasy dragons.
I got you, but I want to be clear. I did not like any of that series for the most part, and I read most of it basically because every time I got to the end of a book, my mom had all of them. Every time I got to the end of the book, I was like, that wasn't.
That's how I read them too. My mom had them.
She would give me the next one and say, well, this one's better. And I must have read 15 of them before I was like, no, this woman is trash. I don't like my aliens and my dragons being the same people. I don't mind aliens and I don't mind dragons. But if you do it wrong, it's just wrong. And it doesn't feel like either fantasy or sci-fi.
Yeah. I mean, I enjoyed what I did read, but I also haven't read any of her stuff since I was probably 14, man.
I think I stopped around 17.
Yeah. So yeah, it
wouldn't have
been my first series.
I found Michael Moorcock, and if there is an emotional heir to H.P. Lovecraft, it might be Michael Moorcock. Because his level of excess, like when he went into inventing like the Melnibonean culture, he went into deep torture and dark recesses of alternate dimensions, tying yourself to great evil outsider deities and stuff. And
I have absolutely no doubt that he probably took some inspiration from Lovecraft, but I think it was it's much more plausible to say that Moorcock straight up ripped off and inverted Howard's work, because Elric is an inversion of Conan the Barbarian.
yeah, I can see that. I mean, where Conan is strong and healthy and basically the inspiration of strength itself.
Yeah,
Elric
where Elric
is-
requires a magical sword that drags him along behind it, right? Whereas Conan
there's
is
more
the
to it.
sword.
It's not just that he has that sword. Elric himself, much like MacGyver, is a bit of a genius. He is exceptionally clever and extremely well educated. So there is no circumstance that sword drags him into where he just doesn't know what to do because he was lazy. He was never lazy. He was sick, but he's so
Sure,
well
I'm giving you all that. I'm just saying that that in his case, Elric was the tool for the sword to accomplish what it wanted, whereas in Conan's case, a sword is just a tool to him.
Yeah.
He is the weapon.
It's a +1 sword of Crom.
Yeah,
It just won't
essentially.
break. It's unbreakable. That's its only magical component. Always sharp, unbreakable.
Yeah, but here's you know what's funny? We talking about the plagiarism aspect of it, and I honestly, with the inversion, there's a lot less of that. But it was clearly it's a deconstruction of Howard's main heroes. Now, there's been a lot of talk about Witcher stuff lately. It's been coming up again, right? They did that TV show with Cavill, and there was video games. There's a new video game coming out. Apparently, there's a bunch of fucking books written by this Polish dude. And a lot of it is based on a lot of like the political aspects of it, and the locations and the monsters in it are very much based on like folk lore and history and locations in Poland and that part of Europe. I get that. But Geralt himself, the Witcher himself, is a plagiarism of Moorcock's Elric, who in turn is an inversion of Howard's Conan.
Am I gonna have to put on my tinfoil hat again, bro?
Just saying,
real deep in the cornfield.
Pale dude who takes a bunch of drugs to fight a bunch of monsters.
Yeah, I got you. I see it. I can totally see it. But I mean, not once did I see Geralt get like dragged across the freaking battlefield by his sword, screaming the whole time, "Stop it! Stop it! I can't do this."
Razor Fist actually did a pretty good breakdown on that a couple of years ago, and he's right. He's right. It's absolutely a ripoff of Moorcock's work, but it's what it is. We guess.
What am I doing? Oh no!
I don't know.
Let's do it.
Merry
What's up,
Christmas, Happy
party?
New Year.
Welcome,
Don't let me
Good to see you.
Yeah, welcome in, man.
I thought I smelled some freaking cheese curd.
Right.
Or better yet, let me do it this way. Howdy you at, mate?
So anyway, I could see that I think that probably a lot of people were influenced specifically by the Pulp Fiction writers of the days of the heyday of Weird Tales magazine. A lot of those guys inspired tons of shit later on. Like, Lovecraft was a contributor. Howard was a contributor. August Derleth was a contributor. Frank Long was a contributor. What's his? The guy who wrote Psycho. All of a sudden, I can't remember his name. I can't remember his name. He was a really good author. Anyway, a lot of these guys, they kind of pioneered a lot of stuff that has influenced everything that came after that. I think even Ray Bradbury, when he was younger, contributed to Weird Tales magazine, did he not?
Something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know what magazine it was, but it may have been Amazing Tales, Weird Tales, Strange Tales, one of them.
Robert Bloch. That's who I was thinking of. Robert Bloch. So, also wrote my favorite Jack the Ripper story, Night of the Ripper.
Huh. Nice. Double bonus.
Yeah, good stuff. See,
So-
NPC, the game says no new horror can be made more terrible than the daily torture of the commonplace. The old ones were, the old ones are, and the old ones shall be. Yeah.
I have more faith in my sick brethren of the universe. I believe they can imagine even more torturous detail than has already been conceived.
Yeah, pretty sure that was a quote. I'm struggling to place specifically the piece it's from, but yeah. El Perro. Welcome, buddy.
You showed up just in time to miss us. Poutine isn't poutine without the cheese curds.
I don't know.
Discovered duck fat a couple of last 2 weeks ago. I cooked, I rotisserie a duck and made some duck fat potatoes, and my whole family nutted up for those things, man. Apparently, they're the bestest thing ever.
Yeah. Did Samuel make an appearance at the end of Cabin in the Woods? No, that was my cousin Frankie. They asked me, but I couldn't be bothered. So now, you know what though? Cabin in the Woods. Have you seen Cabin in the Woods?
Isn't there like 3 of those? 2 or 3 of those?
No, there's just the one movie. Like there are a bunch of movies that take place at a cabin in the woods, but there's only one called The Cabin in the Woods. It's a Joss Whedon flick.
I mean, I'm certain I have. I worked in freaking movie rentals.
So essentially, and I don't want to get too, for people who want to see it, I don't want to get too spoiler or whatever, but 5 teenagers decide they're going to go on a trip to a cabin in the woods, and there's all these guys who are kind of rigging things so that they will be sacrificed to the old ones. Yeah. So that movie, what's interesting about that movie is the very meta nature of it. Like when they're talking about like, oh, is that really necessary? We're not the only ones watching, got to keep the customer happy. They're talking about you, the viewer. And when the movie's over, you destroy their world by turning it off. I mean, it's a very, very fucking meta movie.
And how would you describe a theater full of people if you perceived them as a single entity?
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's very, very outsider oriented. Like you would describe it very much like a Cthulhu in horror.
Right. It's it's a really cool concept. They did really well. Plus it's funny as hell at points. It's like, oh yeah, I had to dismember that guy with a trowel. How have you been?
I'm gonna have to watch it again. I think I might have watched that one back in like 2014 or so.
Yeah, that's one of the ones I watch periodically. I think it's pretty fucking funny. And I enjoyed it. There aren't that many good cosmic horror movies out there, and there certainly aren't that good cosmic horror comedies out there. So
the YouTube description says 5 friends go to a remote cabin in the woods, bad things happen.
Yeah, because it doesn't tell you exactly how bad that shit happened.
Very bad things happen.
Yeah. Oh, like end of everything, bad things happen. So yeah, no, it's pretty funny. Plus, they do film it, I think, in a cabin that is, if it's not the original cabin, I don't know that it is, but it's done up to look like the cabin from the Evil Dead.
Yeah,
he's even got that trapdoor fucking cellar going for it. It pops open.
Dun dun dun.
Yeah, possibly. It's kind of hard to tell. There was so much carnage at the end of the movie. It's possible, Carrie. A lot of there was a guy who got penetrated by a unicorn. If that counts. Oh, speaking of which, dude, I saw this trailer for this thing coming out. This A24 movie called Death of a Unicorn. Have you seen that shit yet?
I haven't seen the trailer. I know that it's happening. I just don't know what it is.
I'm gonna bring it up and we're gonna EFAP this shit because I actually want to see this
Hold
movie.
on. Let me get my lotion.
Make sure you have your tissues handy.
Amateur. See, you're the type of person that doesn't know why the sperm crossed the road.
I mean, yeah.
I put on the wrong sock this morning.
Yeah. All right. There we go. Death of the Unicorn trailer. Do. All right.
If you
so
like
this
making
has.
hold on 1 second. If you like headcanon concept channels, check out what is anti logic. What is anti logic?
Oh no, I'm already subbed to them on your.
Oh yes, I'm
recommendation.
sure you are. But I'm telling Aaron Laura, check out what is anti logic. His headcanon concept of movies is absolutely breathtaking.
Yeah, that was back when Cracked was actually kind of entertaining. They got really fucking stupid and weird after a while, and then they had this guy named Dr. Jordan something or other take over for a while. Now he's doing his own channel, and Cracked is pretty much no more, which is unfortunate. Abe, yes, I have a copy of that movie. It is in fact glorious, if a tad predictable. So. Your unpopular opinions, you like 13 Ghosts. You can like whatever you like, man. I'm not gonna shit on you for liking 13 Ghosts. I don't particularly like it, but that's no reflection on you in any way. You know, some of the shit that I like, you've seen me get shit from some of these guys for some of the shit that I like.
Look into the I don't remember which video it is on what is anti-logic, but it's the one about where he talks about Seven being a Riddler movie and Kevin Spacey being the best Riddler ever made. And it changed. Seven's an excellent movie in its own right, but whenever you look at it from a Gotham Batman perspective, it suddenly it gives you chills, man. Because nobody's ever done the Riddler correctly, and yet here's this movie that sits over here. It feels like Saw, but it kind of looks like the Joker after a fashion. It looks like Gotham. It's like they just didn't get the go ahead to make a Riddler movie, and we're like, you know what, screw it, we're going to do it anyway. Sorry. You're muted.
God damn it! You hear me now?
Yeah, now we got you. And before you hit play, unmute the video too.
I've been talking for like 10 fucking minutes, guys.
Which Sasquatch would shut up so somebody can hear me.
Yeah, pretty much. No. So I have seen this, but that's why I'm making Sasquatch watch it, because I think he'll get a kick out of the concept at the very least. It's supposed to be out sometime next year. Ridley, are you okay?
It kind of felt like it was showing me something. I get this feeling I don't think we're supposed to be here.
The Leopolds donated this entire nature.
I wonder if they're actually shooting that shit on location, because that's a great place to do it. If it is.
And they care about a lot of things, not just pharmaceuticals.
Fine. I will sit there and smile.
Sorry,
What happened? You walked from the airport or what?
It's perfect timing.
I need you to act like.
So, screw back just a smidge. Okay, that's too far. Too far. Ah, there it is. So they had a little accident, essentially. We got to pause this periodically.
Summer meets Cocaine Unicorn.
kind of meets Jaws 3, like the plot of Jaws 3. Yeah. You know what I mean, right? Sort of a anyhow.
All right, roll that beautiful bean footage, baby.
I need you to act like everything is fine. Is there something in your car?
A lot of species in this area are rare.
What exactly are we saying this is, though?
I think we know exactly what it is.
A horse-like mammalia.
With some sort of protrusion or growth.
It's a fucking unicorn.
There it is.
Are we sure that we're not using this as a metaphor for having run down that chick we were both dating?
It's possible it's not a metaphor at all and just like a goofy circumstance. Just putting that out there. Sometimes things just happen.
Yeah, I can accept that.
I don't think I should be in swim shorts for this moment.
I don't think that we're supposed to have this.
We need to study it.
Whatever it is, it seems to be the cure for cancer.
Cancer? That's the biggest one.
So they take this this deceased animal and they do what people do with it, and they cut it up for to see what they can use its parts for, which I mean is fair and all that. And it just gets worse.
Opportunity for greatness, for immortality. I've never been so alive.
Dad, please just listen to me. We need to give the little one back. Okay, bad things will happen.
See what I mean? Bad Jaws 3. We need to give the little one back.
Yeah. No, I got that. I'm just. Right. No, I was going to say that skeleton was not the skeleton of a horse. That skeleton was the skeleton of a predator. That's why I was sitting over here like leaned in real close, like that thing's going to eat somebody's face.
It is, and I can't fucking wait, man.
It's the story of the not deer.
Right?
You're gonna kill us.
I'll do whatever I have to take care of you. You'd retreat in the face of opportunity.
That horn was rather girthsome.
That was a penis joke, ladies and gentlemen.
Just in case you didn't catch it. I like pretty much anything with Paul Rudd in it.
Yeah.
I'm picking up good vibrations. Here's hoping we kill Bigfoot on the way home, huh?
We should do a sequel like Harry of the Hendersons, except it should be like scary.
Right? I want to see this fucking movie now. This looks like fun to me. You know,
I'm down. We'll do a review on it. Let's do that. I think it'd be great. I think it'd be good stuff.
Yeah, I think we should, because look, I mean, the fact is you know, in the pop culture sphere, there's a lot of complaining, and I do a ton of it, so I'm totally guilty of this. Of you know, how things are unoriginal, right? How there's no ideas out there that aren't like you know, either a remake or a ripoff or a repackaging or
what was the thing they came up with a few years ago? Reimagining.
Yeah. So, and granted, there are ideas in this that clearly could be traced back to other older movies. Like I said, Jaws 3. The plot of Jaws 3 is they capture a baby great white shark, and it pisses Mama off. You know, that's it. That's the whole plot. By the way, there's nothing more to that.
And the unicorn's basically a land shark. So,
yeah. So yeah, I'm looking at this as like, yeah, this isn't. You know, it's very hard to come up with something that's truly original, but at least they're giving it a shot with this. This, as far as I can tell, doesn't have any connections to other things. Even Eggers' Nosferatu, which just came out, which I'm actually looking forward to seeing. I was very much a fan of the original movie. I'm going to see that. Is a remake of a 122-year-old black and white silent film. You know.
Did you watch the Civil War?
Oh, the one that came out last year or earlier this year, rather. No,
Yes.
no, I didn't. It seemed
All
like
right.
something I would not enjoy.
Okay. And I felt that way about halfway through it. My mind changed, and it was because I realized this was not anything to do with America. This had everything to do with classic journalism. This film snubbed the entire journalist core. Every person out there who holds a press pass got its nose rubbed in the concept of real journalism. If you look at it from a journalistic point of view, rather than the butthurt liberal or butthurt conservative, Republican, however you want to look at that, the story, just take the whole thing out of America. Just overlook the fact that we're talking about America and put it in some third world country somewhere, and it's still a viable story. And I think that says a lot about the movie itself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I didn't. I've seen some highlights of it. I never actually sat down and watched. I probably
It was
won't.
terribly advertised, man. All the advertisement made it to look out like it was a predictive concept that was going on. Like, this is what the world's actually going to be like. But no. This is the way the world is in other places. And the concept was bringing that idea home. And I think they missed the mark on that attempt. But what they did do was a bald face, straight to the freaking vein, mainline snub of the modern concept of journalistic integrity and what it means to actually get the story.
No, that's fair. That's fair. The post says, by the way, the old Nosferatu is on YouTube. Yes, I know. And I believe that we discussed another version of it. Because they did these. The original one had a soundtrack, it had a score that went along with it. There were musical cues in the original. It's called silent film because there's no dialogue and no sound effects, right? So over the years, people have redubbed different soundtracks into that movie. My personal favorite, which we discussed on Beelzebub this morning, is the one where they took a bunch of Typo Negative songs and stuck it in there, and it works. It's fucking great. It's like watching a big old long Typo music video. So that's my personal favorite
Nice.
of the alternate versions of the original, although I very much like the original version, which we would not have if the Stoker estate was successful in their
Right.
pursuit of getting them all destroyed on account of it. It was indeed a thinly veiled ripoff of the Dracula property.
Sure. But I'm glad we got it.
Yeah, I am too, because it's a good movie, and here we are. We're getting Egger's version of it here this week. Gal went to see it. I have yet to be able to go see it, but I'm planning on it. I very much enjoyed his movie, The Northman. I haven't seen much else from him. I know he's done some other stuff that everybody else liked, like The Witch or whatever, but I haven't seen that. But I'm looking forward to this. Plus, it's got Willem Dafoe in it, which is interesting.
I'm sold. If Willem Dafoe signed off on it, I'm good with it.
Yeah, it's of interest to me because there was a movie in the 90s called Shadow of the Vampire, which was about the making of the Nosferatu by F.W. Murnau, right? And the guy who played Max Schreck, who played Count Orlok in the original version of it, is Willem Dafoe, except that in this movie, they fictionalize it a little bit because, as it turns out, while Count Orlok is the fictional character Schreck is playing, Schreck himself is indeed actually a vampire. So, which I also recommend watching, by the way. It was Dafoe killed it in that.
Absolutely. I there's very few roles that Willem Dafoe's done that I didn't like. Mm-hmm. I loved him as the Green Goblin, but I don't think he did the role well, right? I think if they'd have turned him loose to interpret the Green Goblin himself, I think we would have gotten a much more dynamic Green Goblin. Instead, they were just like, stick to the comic books. But have you seen the Penguin?
No, I told you I probably wasn't going to watch that.
I kind of dig the sort of hyper realistic concept that they went with on it. The fact that he's a super criminal, not a super villain.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's not a supervillain in the comic books either. He's a gangster.
Yeah,
you know,
right.
he's one of the only people that that Batman goes up with who isn't that technically affiliated with like the Falcones or the Maronis, who were the two main, normal Italian immigrant gangster families in Gotham, right? Who is just a gangster, right? He's a very, very smart, very business savvy gangster, but he is in fact just a gangster who has some weird physical shit going on. He's not crazy, right? Like we discussed this, I think, a couple weeks ago.
Right.
You got guys like Clayface, right? Whichever version of Clayface you want to pick out, there are 8 or 9 different Clayfaces. Depending on who you ask, I think there are 11 different ones, and that's just from like Prime Earth. That's not even counting the multiverse. But if Basil Carlo, right, was I think the first of them, and he was an actor, and he put on this stuff, it mutated and blah blah blah. Anyway, he couldn't keep his identity straight because he couldn't even keep his own shape straight, right? So he went nuts. He was crazy. Kurt Langstrom, the guy who became Man Bat, batshit crazy, literally. It's like the lizard from Spider-Man, but with wings. And then you got, you obviously the Joker's out of his goddamn mind, although I think probably less so than he lets people think that he is. The Riddler is one of those guys who's so obsessed with details and with getting credit and with proving that he's smarter than everybody else that he paints himself into a little fucking ADHD crazy corner too.
Yeah, he's basically a YouTuber. Have you noticed the Riddler's a YouTuber?
Yeah.
Joker's a Reddit troll.
Yeah. Or a Redditor.
Yeah, well, you know what I mean. Same difference. What are you talking about?
So yeah, but they're all batshit.
And devastating.
But they're all crazy, right?
Crazy,
they're all crazy
yeah.
dudes, or
And
chicks or whatever. I mean,
was just a
Catwoman's
gangster.
right.
Yeah. All right.
Right. So, but you know what? Actually, I think we'll probably bring the discussion to a close. About need to get some food before Amira's stream starts in a little bit. And also, I am starting to finally, for the first time this weekend, have some issues with my connection. So it's probably a good time to shut it down.
Nice. Nice.
So hopefully y'all heard that because it's a little slow on my end.
Yeah, no, you've been on a lag all
anyhow.
night, and it's been interfering with the one-on-one communication because there's a lag. I'm assuming there was an answer there, but we don't know what it is. So I don't know what to tell everybody. I'm Caucasian Sasquatch, and this has been Screaming into the Void. Could be Raymond Flaming Puppies. How does it go? Flaming kitty cats? I don't know. He got kicked out right before he got to end it. Yes, now we may take over the universe. Just me, you, and her, and her, and her, and her. All right, so where do we go from here, chat? Cobras, flaming cobras, that's right. I always thought it was something dangerous, though. I always thought Chihuahua bats would be scarier than flaming cobras. Especially if they weighed like 4 pounds. Spider wasps. There's another. Hey, welcome back. Do you want to try that again?
It's going to boot me again, isn't it? God damn it.
Yeah, be quick.
I hope I'm back. All right. Thanks for coming, everybody. Happy New Year. We're going to get out of here. Go watch Sasquatch's channel. Go watch everybody else in the descriptions channel. It'll be good. We're going to go because shit is fucking up bad now. So
Flaming Cobras. Yeah, Flaming Cobras. I'm assuming he's going to hit a button at some point in time in between his horrendous internet signal, and we'll wrap up from there. Actually, we should probably look into trying to redirect somebody somewhere, but I didn't think about it, so I don't have any of those windows open, so you're going to have to get over it. Resla's live if you're interested. Go check him out. He's got a Can We Talk when the energy is low. Yeah. I wish I could end it for him, but I can't. I don't have that kind of power. Thank you, Aaron Laura. You're a real one. Not like all these fake ones we have everywhere. The ventriloquist, crazy or possessed. Hey, man, take your pick on that one. It depends on which origin story you want to go with for that one, I think. If I'm thinking about the right guy. We have to find our own entertainment. Yeah, as soon as he figures out how to shut it off, you'll be on your own. I don't really know what to do other than to continue talking. You're a fake one? Yeah. You might be a cake one, though. I mean, you look pretty sweet in the hills there, bro. If we could ever get you to move out of your daddy's shed and put away your manifesto, we might be able to get you a real girl. I'm not sure he wants a real girl.
All right. I'm assuming everything's running good. This booted me like 6 times in the last 5 minutes. So yeah, we're gonna get out of here. We're gonna end the show. Before we do, real quick, the article that Carrie emailed to me, I'm gonna paste a link in the chat for those of you who are interested, because we did not get to the whole thing. So apologies for that, but definitely if you're interested, go check that out. And thank you all for being here. And Happy New Year to everybody. We'll see you all next time. We're not going to do the plugging thing. We're just going to get the fuck out of here because I don't want to get booted again. So have a great night. And remember, it could always be worse. You could have shitternet and it would be raining flaming cobras. Bye, everybody.